In this module, we'll be discussing regarding the memory. When I say memory, it can be the static memory as well as the dynamic memory. We'll be discussing both, and also we'll be discussing regarding the registers and aspects of system timings. Let us look into the system timing considerations. So in every system, a two-phase non-overlapping clock signal is assumed to be available, and this clock signal alone will be used throughout the system. The clock phases are labeled as phi 1 and phi 2, where phi 1 is assumed to lead phi 2. So when we speak about the memory element, there are two operations, that is read operation and the write operation. So read and write, they are mutually exclusive. That means we cannot read and write the data simultaneously. When read operation is carried out, we cannot perform a write operation. Okay, so let us see when the data is written and when the data is read. Bits or data to be stored are written to the registers and the subsystems on phi 1 of the clock. That is, the control signal is write, that is ANDed with phi 1. So I can say WR into phi 1. Bits or the data written into the storage elements, it is assumed to have settled before the immediately following phi 2 signal, and phi 2 signals may be used to refresh the stored data. And coming to the delay through the data paths, it is assumed to be lesser than the interval between the leading edge phi 1 of the clock and the leading edge of the following phi 2 signal. So the time delay has to be lesser than the time duration between the leading edge of phi 1 and the leading edge of phi 2. Bits or the data may be read from the storage element on the next phi 1 of the clock. See, previously we have seen that for write operation, the control input is write into phi 1, and for read operation it is read into phi 1. And the general requirement for the stability of the system is that there should be at least one clock storage element in series with every closed loop signal path. These are the general system timing considerations. The storage elements are compared based on the three parameters, that is the area requirement, estimated decimation per bit stored, and volatility. So it depends upon, so here we will be discussing regarding the different memory elements. So we will see which is better, and this comparison is made based on how much area is required on the chip and how much of power dissipation takes place and how long the data can be stored. Let us look into the different configurations of RAM cell, that is dynamic RAM cell as well as static RAM cell. We'll start the explanation with the 3T dynamic RAM cell. 3T, the meaning is that 3 transistors are used, that is T1, T2 and T3. These 3 transistors are used to store 1 bit data. This arrangement uses a single transistor for storing the data. That is, T2 transistor is used for storing the data, and the data, that is bit, it is stored as gate capacitance. And the other 2 transistors, that is T1 and T3, they are used for read and write access. It has a pull-up network with either CMOS or NMOS technology. Okay, so here this is the pull-up network. This pull-up network can be configured using NMOS technology. So in NMOS technology, NMOS is used, and the NMOS used is depletion type NMOS, or else we can go for CMOS technology also. So in CMOS technology, the pull up, for pull up we are using PMOS, and read and write circuit are used, that is used as a pull down network. So read control line, it is connected to T1, a read control line is connected to T3, and write control input is connected to T1. Data is stored at gate capacitance of transistor in the form of charge. Read and write are the control lines. T1 with T2, it is used for writing the data, and T3 with T2, it is used for reading the data. Okay, so this point is considered as I, that is used for both reading and writing operation. Here in this case, T2 is a storage transistor, and T1 and T3, they are pass transistors which acts as access switches for control lines read and write, that is used for carrying out read and write operations. Now let us see how read and write operation is carried out. Now let me say I want to perform write operation. Okay, for performing write operation, the write control input, this should be made 1, and as discussed earlier, read and write, they are mutually exclusive, they cannot be carried out at the same time. So when write control input is 1, which is connected to the gate of the transistor T1, the NMOS turns on. So whatever is there in the bus, let me assume that 1 is there in the bus. So T1 acts as a pass transistor, and that 1 is stored as gate capacitance in T2. Suppose 0 is stored in the bus. Okay, suppose we are writing 0, that means 0 is passed through the bus, and T1 acts as a pass transistor, and that 0 will be stored as gate capacitance. Okay, this is for write operation. For write operation, we are using T1 and T2. T1 is used as a pass transistor, and T2 it is used for storing the charge. It can be either or 1. Now let us see how read operation is carried out. For performing read operation, the control input read, it has to be 1. So T1 will be in off state, and now the transistor T3 will be in on state, because read is 1. This transistor T3 will turn on. Now the data which is stored as gate capacitance in T2, it is made available in the bus. Let us see what happens if 1 is stored. Previously, during write operation, if 1 was stored here, because of read control input, because it is 1, T3 will be in on state and T2 will also be in on state. That means both are conducting, that is T2 as well as T3, both are conducting, and there is a path to ground. So the output will be pulled down to 0. So here you can see 1 was stored here in the as gate capacitance, but the bit read in the bus is 0. It is complementary actually. Now let me consider the other case. Suppose 0 was stored previously. Suppose 0 was stored previously, T2 is in off state, that is non-conducting state. T3 is in conducting state. Okay, and because of the arrangement of the pull-up transistor here, the output available here in the bus is logic 1. So here you should make a note that if 1 is stored as gate capacitance in the transistor, during read operation 0 is read. Suppose 0 is stored, then during read operation 1 is read. So here you need to know that the output read through the bus is always complementary. That is, if 1 is stored, 0 is read, and if 0 is stored, then 1 is read. Okay, so here the explanation is given. Read and write, they are mutually exclusive, that is, they are complement to each other. For write operation, write pin has to be 1 and the read has to be 0. Because write is equal to 1, T1 is in on state, but T3 and T2, they are in off state. If data bit on the bus is 1, T1 is on and it will pass the signal towards T2, and the capacitor is charged to its potential at I. Okay, in the previous diagram you can see that the gate capacitance T2, it is referred as I. If data bit is 0, as T1 is on, it will pass the signal and charge stored at point I is 0. After the data is stored at I, the capacitor, that is, it is stored as gate capacitance, the write signal is made 0. Okay, that is with the completion of write operation. Let us look into the read operation. For read operation, read control input is equal to 1 and write is equal to 0. As write is equal to 0, T1 will be in off state and T3 will be in on state, because read control input is 1. So T2 will be in on or off state depending upon the voltage or the charge that is stored as gate capacitance. Now let me consider that logic 1 is stored, then T2 will be in on state. Thus T2 as well as T3 both are in on state, and the path for this charge is present and the bus is pulled down to the ground. So the output read through the bus is 0. If logic 0 is stored, then T2 is in off state and charge does not have any path for discharge, and it will retain logic 1 in the bus. So you should note that the complement of the stored bit is read through the bus. And let us discuss the power dissipation, area required, and the volatility. Here the static power dissipation is nil, since current flows only when the read signal is high or if logic 1 is stored. Only for these two cases the current flows. The actual dissipation with each bit stored, it depends upon the bus pull-up and the duration of the read control input, and also it depends upon the switching frequency. And regarding the area occupied on the chip, let us consider a standard area of 4 mm into 4 mm. So the area occupied, that is for this area on the chip, 4.8 kilobits of data can be stored. And speaking about the volatility, this cell is dynamic and it will hold the data as long as sufficient charge remains on the gate capacitance of T2. This is a stick diagram. So refer to the 3 transistor dynamic RAM cell. So based on that, this stick diagram is drawn. So you should know how a stick diagram is drawn. So we have discussed in the second module regarding the stick diagram as well as the layout configuration. You need to draw the VDD VSS line. You have to put a cross mark on it. Okay, and whatever is above the demarcation line, that is treated as PMOS, and whatever is below the demarcation line, it is treated as NMOS. And whenever a polysilicon layer, so here actually 2 configurations we were speaking about, that is the pull-up network can be configured using depletion type NMOS, or it can be also configured using CMOS. So here we have considered CMOS network. So pull-up transistor is P-type, hence the gate control input phi 2 bar is given. Please refer the circuit for this. Then whenever a polysilicon layer it crosses the diffusion layer, a transistor is formed. Okay, so here you can find 3 transistors that are formed. 3 plus 1, that is totally 4. That is for pull-up network it is 1, and for pull-down network it is 3. Next let us look into 1T dynamic RAM cell. It is called as 1T because we are just using 1 transistor in order to store a bit. So previous configuration we have seen 3 transistors were used. So here a slight improvement is done where we are just using 1 transistor. Let us see how read and write operation is carried out. So here for write operation, the row select input has to be made 1. So whatever is there in the read or write line, it will be moved through the transistor, pass transistor or NMOS transistor, and the bit will be used to charge the capacitor or discharge the capacitor. Suppose logic 1 is given, then the capacitor will be charged. Suppose logic 0, then capacitor will be discharged. So logic 0 will be there in the capacitor. This is about the write operation. Whereas for read operation, row select input, it is 1, and whatever is there in the capacitor, suppose 1 is there in the capacitor, it will be moved through the transistor and it will be made available in the read or write control input. Suppose 1 is stored in the read or write line, 1 will be obtained. If 0 is stored, then 0 will be obtained in the read or write. Here the difference is that even though the read and write operation looks same, the difference is that in read operation a sense amplifier is required to differentiate whether bit 1 was stored or bit 0 was stored. To differentiate this, we have to use a sense amplifier. So here you can see the stick diagram, the first diagram, that is a stick diagram for 1 transistor, and to the right side you can see a 3-plate parallel capacitor. That here we'll be discussing regarding this later. Just have a look at this 3-plate parallel capacitor where 3 plates are used for storing the charge. Here read and write operation is explained. Just we'll go through it quickly. For write operation, the capacitor CM will be charged, that is when read or write control input is 1 and row select is equal to 1. If the read or write control line is provided with logic 1, then CM will be charged, that is in the capacitor. The capacitor will be charged to logic 1, and if the line is provided with 0, charge stored in the capacitor will be logic 0. And for read operation, once again the row select line input has to be made 1. If logic 0 is stored in CM and when row select input is 1, then the sense amplifier at the bit line will sense and give the output as logic 0. Similarly, if logic 1 is stored in CM and when row select input is high, the logic 1 stored will begin to discharge as the path exists, and the sense amplifier senses this bit and gives the output as logic 1. So previously in 3 transistor you have seen the output read is always complementary, whereas here you can see that the bit is read in the same way. If 1 is stored, then 1 is read, and if 0 is stored, then 0 is read. Speaking about the area occupied in the chip, we can see the area occupied in one transistor dynamic RAM cell. It is of a single transistor and a capacitor, because we use a capacitor and a transistor in order to store one bit. Larger the value of CM, that means the bit will be stored for a longer duration. So always the CM value should be large. If CM is large, then the capacitor structure has to be large. That means it occupies more space. How to overcome that problem? So one solution is to have a 3-plate capacitor structure. So here, in case of a 3-plate capacitor structure, there is a polysilicon plate that is connected to VDD, and this is connected over the diffusion area. So if we use the diffusion to substitute capacitance alone, larger area will be required in order to give any significant value of capacitance. So at least 16 lambda square will be required to give a capacitance of 1 square Cg. So with this structure, that is the polysilicon over the diffusion area, so 4 lambda square is sufficient for 1 square Cg capacitance. So speaking about the area occupied on the chip, so in a area that is 4 millimeter into 4 millimeter, the bits stored is about 12 kilobits. And speaking about the power dissipation, with the cell there is no static power dissipation, but power dissipation will be there during read and write operation. The data in CM will be held only up to 1 millisecond or even lesser than that. So in this case, periodic refreshing of data is required. Try to answer these two questions. In this session, 3 transistor and 1 transistor dynamic RAM cell both are explained. So you need to answer these two questions. The first one is, with a neat diagram, explain 3 transistor dynamic RAM cell. Explain how read and write operation is carried out. And with a neat diagram, explain 1 transistor dynamic RAM cell along with read and write operation, and also explain the 3-plate capacitor structure.